Drink told me the plan and I say I'm with it. We jumped in the car and went straight to the riches. Yeah, we went straight to the riches. He told me this one gon' bust both of our wrists. I told him he playing, he says no gimmicks. I told him let's get it, I told him let's get it like.
Let's get it on the road to 25K. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't, man. Let's get it.
Right there. Right, hold it.
It was 1983 in the month of July. What started as a normal month ended as a series of pogroms, lootings and murders perpetrated upon Sri Lanka's Tamil minority population. In the years that followed, the events of Black July shaped the course of Sri Lanka's history.
අපි ඉතින් සෙල්ලම් කරගෙන ඔන්න දුවනවා කියලා දිව්වා. දුවලා එනකොට අපි උඩට කැලේට ගියා. කැලේට දුවනවා ආයෙ එනවා ගෙදර. ආපහු මේ තාත්තලා එක්කන් ගිහලා කැලේ තියලා අපිට කාමරෙට ගෙනලා තිනවා. ඒටි කාලා අපි කැලේම ඉන්නවා. ආයෙ තව දැනකට යනවා. බයයිනේ.
Although the fight towards independence was shouldered by both majority and minority communities in the country, once Sri Lanka gained independence from its British colonial rulers in 1948, its politics became skewed towards majoritarianism.
Okay.
In the early 1990s, in the aftermath of the Civil War, the Nirmalendran family landed in Toronto, specifically Regent Park. Due to language barriers, the mother and father would struggle to find jobs while the three brothers would enroll in Toronto's Central Tech High School. During this time, the eldest brother, Nixon, would meet a friend. His name was Alwi. With Nixon being young and new to the city, Alwi looked after him like an older brother and took him under his wing as he was 2 years older and born in Regent. Both Alwi and Nixon were described by peers and family as funny, caring and compassionate. They both shared the same goal of making it out of Regent and providing for their families. However, on Halloween night in 2007, these dreams would unfortunately be cut short.
For illegal drugs and to arrest youths in a big crowd. These officers of the law are trained to apprehend their suspects in many different ways without having to draw their weapon. But it seems they are quick to pull the trigger. This past Halloween night, they took the life of my friend Awi. He was shot in the neck by a female officer after a brief encounter. His family and friends still mourn his death, but sadly this has not been the first event of this kind. But we are fighting to make it the last one. In fact, police brutality is present all around the world, even in Canada.
What happened, Nixon?
On Halloween night of 2007, in Riverdale Park, Toronto police was alerted to 4 robberies that had just occurred. Due to the report, Toronto police sent numerous patrol units to the park. Officers were told by one of the victims that he had been robbed by Alwi and another suspect, who would later be identified as Nixon. The witness said that one of the men was holding a gun. The patrol units began surveying the area when they saw Alwi and Nixon in the process of robbing 2 other men of their cell phones, jewelry and other valuables. 2 officers, with their service pistols drawn, surprised Alwi and Nixon and instructed them to surrender. Nixon initially complied. However, Alwi fled on foot and a chase began. One officer managed to wrestle Alwi to the ground, but this is where the story gets iffy. It is alleged that the officer began beating Alwi with his service gun until Alwi quote-unquote grabbed the officer's weapon. During the struggle for the weapon, Alwi is subsequently shot and killed by the officer. Nixon witnessed the entire situation, but due to him being a minor at the time, he was not identified by Toronto police. This marked the beginning of Nixon's struggles and the downfall of the Nirmalendran brothers, as all three would soon turn to the streets of Regent Park to seek solace and protection.
Police believe that this gang has been trafficking large amounts of a highly dangerous drug.
Our investigators are confident that...
See, now it's really fucked the police now, feel me? Even though they were doing some bad shit. Police took his mans, now it's really fucked the police.
This project has effectively disrupted and dealt a significant blow to the hierarchy and the operations of this gang.
The early morning raids came after several months of investigation. They took place in Toronto and Hamilton, as well as York, Durham, Halton, and Peel regions. Police allege the gang is involved in the sale and distribution of fentanyl, not just in the GTA, but in other parts of the country as well. And while a quantity of drugs were also seized, this afternoon Police Chief Mark Saunders held off on disclosing further details, with the investigation still underway.
We're talking about a drug that is 100 times more potent than heroin, and when we look at the opioid situation across the country, and specifically in Toronto.
On August 25, 2008, Toronto police received detailed information from a confidential source alleging that Nixon was dealing crack cocaine from his bedroom window. That same day, police immediately applied for, and were granted, a warrant authorizing a nighttime no-knock search of the Nirmalendran family home. The warrant was executed at about 11:30 that night by forced entry into the home. The police found, as expected, a quantity of crack cocaine and some cash. In addition, they also discovered a loaded 9mm semi-automatic handgun. Nixon was subsequently arrested. The confidential source who provided police with information on Nixon claimed to have personally purchased crack cocaine from him and to have direct knowledge of his ongoing criminal activities. He even went further and described seeing a white bag of crack that Nixon kept under his bed. He described the prices and amounts of drugs available from Nixon. The informant was able to provide the accused's first name and his home address. The source not only knew where the accused lived, he knew the basic layout of the apartment. Nixon would eventually learn that someone had ratted on him. He suspected it was a childhood friend by the name of Christopher Husbands.
Holy. Now we gotta go find him. Yeah. What happened?
On January 2, 2010, Mr. Kevin Phillip was beaten to death inside cell 18 on Range 2A South at the Toronto Don Jail. After an extensive investigation, Nixon and 5 other inmates were charged with second-degree murder in relation to Mr. Phillip's death. Mr. Phillip was considered by other inmates to be a bully. He was known to steal clothing and food from weaker inmates and assault those who crossed his path. On January 2, 2010, Mr. Phillip was bouncing up and down the range and ultimately challenged everyone to a fight. He was upset about which cell he was placed in. No one had taken Mr. Phillip up on his challenge for a fight. However, he asked one of the correction officers if he could move to cell 6 and they agreed. At approximately 2:15 p.m. that same day, Mr. Phillip was attacked by a number of individuals. They held him until he passed out, at which point, he was punched in the face and was told something to the effect of, "Did you think you could come back and run things? Did you think things were going to go back to the same way as they were before?" Mr. Phillip replied, "Is this how you guys are doing me?" Minutes later, Mr. Phillips is dragged unconscious into the shower and left to bleed to death. Court documents also noted that Nixon's shoes were wet and soaked in blood, and while in the cell, Nixon was heard laughing. When officers questioned his wet clothing, he said he had just taken a shower. Ontario's Court of Justice eventually reduced Nixon's second-degree murder charge to manslaughter due to lack of evidence. Nixon would be found not guilty and subsequently released within a few months. Fast forward a year and a half later, Christopher Husbands, the man Nixon suspected of being his snitch, was invited by Nixon to a home in Regent Park. Husbands was made aware that Nixon was upset with him. However, when confronted by Husbands over the phone, Nixon claimed there was no bad blood and insisted they were cool. Husbands believed Nixon.
He hit him with the okie dokie. I already know what's gonna happen. He like spoon feeding him. Nah, we don't got no beef, bro. We don't got no beef. We don't got no beef. Just come, let's talk.
And went to the apartment. When he arrived, he was immediately ambushed. 6 masked men confronted him and called him a snake and claimed he had disrespected them. They punched and kicked him. They duct taped his feet and arms and tried to tape his face as well. One of them put a .45 caliber gun to his head and said, 4-5 to the dome before pistol whipping him on the side of his mouth, cracking his tooth. While being stabbed, he was able to recognize Nixon, Nissan and another friend whose mother he slept with as a few of his attackers.
Why he had to say like that though? Like, what? Why he had to say like that? Like let him sleep with his moms. He's fucking his moms. He's fucking his moms. Why he had to slide that in there though? Like, damn.
Nixon, Nissan and another friend whose mother he slept with as a few of his attackers.
Shots were just fired.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
Ambulance for her.
Hey, how many shots have you heard?
Like 15, 12. I don't know. There was just a lot of them.
They're already being dispatched this moment.
They're running.
And we're seeing chilling evidence. Photos from inside the mall, moments after that gunman opened fire. It's 11 o'clock.
Also at 5, it's a city that rarely sees this type of violence, and tonight we're learning new details about this weekend's deadly shooting rampage at the famous Eaton Center in Toronto.
Soon after the stabbing and even after being investigated by Toronto police, Christopher Husbands didn't snitch. Instead, he sought revenge through other means. On June 2, 2012, just 4 months after the stabbing, Husbands and his girlfriend at the time decided to shop around Toronto's Eaton Centre Mall and eventually stopped by a Chinese food takeout spot. As his girlfriend was ordering, Husbands was off in the corner, appearing very mindful of his surroundings. This was due to the fact that he was violating the terms of his house arrest bail, and if he was caught outside, he would be sent to prison. As Husbands and his girlfriend were ordering, a group of 5 men entered the mall. Ahmed Nuri, whom was involved in the stabbing of Husbands. Ahmed Hassan, whom was wanted on drug charges.
Imagine you see the nigga that just kidnapped you and stabbed you in the mall, and you with your girl. That nigga's stomach went down to his ass. That nigga was like, holy.
Robert Cotta, who due to a clerical error, saw him released from the maximum security Toronto West Detention Centre on the morning of June 2nd. And Nissan and Nixon Nirmalendran. In the words of Christopher Husbands, he said, "I wasn't expecting to see these people. In my mind, they came out of nowhere." He sees Nixon pointing at him, saying, "Shoot him. What are you waiting for? You're supposed to know what to do when you see him." And Nissan reaching into his left pocket, underneath his jacket. I was terrified. I was thinking, this guy's gonna shoot me. I'm gonna die. The next thing, I'm ducking and then I hear this loud.
Yeah. Is that self-defense? Is that self-defense? That nigga was fearing for his life. You gotta fit my fault. I'm only bobbing my head because that's how nigga was running while he was about to go hawk them niggas. Feel me? I'm in my mode right now. Nah, bro, that nigga was scared as shit. He forgot he was with his girl. He said, fuck all that shit. Them niggas stabbed me up. Damn, boy, you.
I'm gonna die. The next thing, I'm ducking and then I hear this loud.
That's what I like, boy. That's what I like. His girl there, feel me? And you know, that hyped him up. He already got stabbed. He looking for y'all niggas. Not really. He ain't really want to see y'all niggas though, feel me? He really scared, feel me? But he don't want to get stabbed again, feel me? He don't want to get kidnapped. So, feel me? Y'all niggas is really lacking. It's 5 versus 1. Y'all was supposed to violate, bruv. See? It's chess, not checkers, nigga. of the kids. Oh, my boy said he went. He did the what's that shit called? Right here to the ground, bro. My fault. I know he passed away. I don't mean to say that shit, bro. Oh shit. Oh man. Calm as a bitch. Oh. Ooh. He called a Kobe.
14 rounds are shot into a crowded Eaton Center mall. 8 of those are fired right into Nixon, as his once childhood friend stands over him shooting until his magazine is empty. 5 innocent bystanders were also hit by the bullets that may have traveled through several different bodies or ricocheted off floors, walls or pillars. They all recovered from their injuries, including a 13-year-old boy who was shot in the head. As for the 3 other men Nixon and Ahmed were with, they managed to just barely escape the shooting. Nissan would take off in a southerly direction up the south escalators leaving the Eaton Center. Robert Cotter ran.
I hate niggas like that. I hate niggas start running without alerting they man. Bro, no, he seen nigga with the gun already. Nigga slid off. He just slid off. He's supposed to say, yo, Brody, bro got the gun, nigga. One of y'all, I know one of these niggas had the gun on him. Y'all could've, this shit could've went different though, feel me? This shit's crazy.
And in the east direction.
In the mall though, you gotta think about it. You really heartless, bro. Think about it, feel me? Some of y'all niggas is scared to steal from the mall. Imagine you killing a nigga in the mall, bro. Imagine the heart that you don't have, feel me? Holy.
Up the south escalators leaving the Eaton Center. Robert Cotter
is scared to take fucking bubble gum from Walmart, nigga. This nigga, bang, 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 right in front of people and everybody, feel me? Holy, right in front of Cinnabon and all that, gang. Holy.
Ran in the east direction and into a sport check. He exited the Eaton Center through the inventory room. Ahmed Nuri is seen running east as well and turning west into the central seating area of the food court. He is later seen going up the south escalators and exited the Eaton Center. Husbands doesn't look back. He hightails it out of the Eaton Center and went home, to his sister's Adelaide Street apartment, stuffed the gun under the bed, stripped out of his clothes and threw them into a bag. He then drove along Park Lawn Road, discarded the clothes and the gun and drove to a liquor store and bought a bottle of Hennessy. Husband spent that night at another friend's house, drinking heavily, crashing on the couch, wrecking his brain over what to do. What husbands realized quickly was that he needed a lawyer. He turned himself into police at 2:30 a.m., June 4th.
This is Christopher Husbands, the 23-year-old who turned himself in this morning, accused of
why he turned himself in though?
The first-degree murder of Ahmed Hassan, his gang associate who was shot to death inside a packed food court in Toronto's Eaton Center Saturday night. Husbands is also charged with the attempted murder of another member of the same street gang, who remains in critical condition, and the attempted murder of 5 other innocent bystanders caught in the crossfire. Still, the criminal history of these men is alarming. The accused, Chris Husbands, is known to police for drugs and guns and was out on bail.
Mr. Husbands was a charged individual and was on house arrest conditions not to be outside of his residence.
The dead man, 23-year-old Ahmed Hassan, was wanted in Alberta for trafficking and a host of other charges, including breaches of probation.
You see how one mistake leads to some crazy shit, gang? If bro would have stayed home, none of this would have happened. None of this would have happened, gang. Feel me? None of this would have fucking happened if he would have just stayed home and listened to what the court said, gang, what the judge gave him. Stay fucking home.
And Global News has learned the 22-year-old now fighting for his life was arrested in 2007 at Riverdale Park for armed robbery. His 18-year-old co-accused was fatally shot by police during the takedown. He was also charged with second-degree murder in relation to the killing of a Don Jail inmate.
A week later, while in custody, Nixon passes away in hospital from his injuries. Husband soon learns that Nixon had also died. In his words he said, "I was very affected. No matter what we went through, Nixon was my childhood friend. I was reflecting on when we were young, what we went through as we grew up.
Dwight, Christopher Husbands showed no emotion as a judge sentenced him to 30 years with no chance of parole. His sister, however, showed quite a bit of emotion. She bolted out of the courtroom in tears, sobbing uncontrollably. Now, we did speak with the defense lawyer just moments ago. He tells us that he is planning to appeal this case. He says that such a long sentence is really just unconstitutional.
The evidence that was put forward shows that this was very much out of character for him. He doesn't have a extensive violent history. I mean, he was working with, he was selling drugs, but he was also working with young children. And I mean, that's very much to his credit.
A 50-minute statement. Oh my boy.
Shortly after the shooting, Nissan is followed, then questioned by 2 detectives from the Toronto Police Homicide Squad. The unsworn audio interview lasted approximately 50 minutes. Nissan told the police that in the 35 days since the shooting he had watched news stories about the event. At one point he told the officers, "I heard one gunshot, then I shot." There were no follow-up questions or clarifications as to what he meant by "I shot." Early in the statement, Nissan said if someone in his group was armed they would have told one another. He later contradicted that statement. He then proceeded to claim that the stabbing incident involving Husbands had nothing to do with Nixon or himself, and that it was done by Somalis that had beef with Husbands. When discussing his brother Nixon, Nissan said he could have been shot in Regent Park so many other times. He would be in Regent with no gun on him, just standing there smoking. There were so many times when someone could have run up and shot at him. The stabbing was in March and he was shot in June, and my brother was out on the streets during that time. I know Christopher seen my brother before, and Nixon knew that he had problems with people in Regent. Nixon has even seen him hanging out there the last few months before the shooting. Christopher could have done it enough times in Regent when he saw my brother. It doesn't make sense. So he does it in the Eaton Center when a couple of guys are around my brother? Nissan would go on to further exclaim the fact that Nixon wasn't targeted. I know he wasn't targeted or he would have been gone a long time ago. Why would it take 4 months after the stabbing when Christopher seen him in the area enough times?
It was a shocking crime that rocked our city. Now we're finding out there's a link between the Eaton Center shooting and Toronto's latest murder. Genevieve Tomney explains.
Just after 11 last night, paramedics rushed Nissan Nirmalendran to St. Mike's Hospital. Hours later, he would die there, succumbing to bullet wounds, just as his older brother Nixon did less than a year ago. Police confirming today the man killed in last night's shooting at a downtown seniors home is the younger brother of one of the victims of the Eaton Center shooting.
Obviously, anytime 2 members of a family are murdered, it causes concern for everyone. But
for now, police are not making a connection, but say the killing of 2 brothers in 1 year is a coincidence they cannot ignore.
Right now, early on, there's nothing that's jumping out that tells me that because of this has occurred. But we'll certainly explore that.
Meanwhile, at the crime scene, police are poring over surveillance video they say tells a disturbing story. Police say the video shows what happened in this vestibule, the killer chasing the victim into the small space. But also inside, an elderly woman who lives in the residence, trapped by coincidence in what police call a cat and mouse game, where the victim appeared to use her as a human shield. The woman was unharmed, but residents of the building have been left shaken.
On March 21, 2013, Toronto police say they received a call reporting gunfire just after 11:30 p.m. Thursday at a senior's apartment at 55 Bleecker Street in Regent Park. When police arrived, they found Nissan suffering from several gunshot wounds. He was taken to St. Michael's Hospital and pronounced dead. To this day, the killers are still at large. However, the only person of interest the police currently have is believed to be a friend of Nissan, as video footage showed them entering the building together earlier that evening.
They got him out of here because he was telling, right? Most likely. 50-minute statement, they probably got him out of here. He was a tattletale.
Later in the footage, Nissan is seen running back into the building in a panic, as his killer fires several shots at him. In an act of desperation, Nissan momentarily uses an elderly resident of the retirement home as a shield, before running back out of the building where he would collapse. The shooter would then take off. Once the footage and the details emerged of the incident, rival gangs of Regent Park would mock the death of Nissan in various songs.
My city's crazy.
Everybody tweaking for a body. Scared niggas missing cause they tweaking off of Molly's. Niggas using old ladies as protection in the lobby. Wow. And still getting by.
That's tough.
After the deaths of Nixon and Nissan, their youngest brother Nurusin would immediately reap the mental consequences of losing both of his older brothers within a year. The mother of the three would state during the Eaton Center trial that Nurusin changed after losing his oldest brother Nixon. She told the judge, Nixon was especially fond of his youngest brother, Nurusin. He loved him so much. When we sat together as a family to eat, those were the best moments of my life, said the mother. My 3 boys were my life. My family was a very fun-filled family. I don't know what happened. When my sons were here, they used to sit together and eat and laugh together as a family, she said through an interpreter. After my youngest son lost his brothers, he doesn't come near the table anymore. Her full statement was so emotional, her interpreter began crying during translation.
That's tough, yeah. I remember in the beginning of the doc, for me, the mom and the pop, they don't really speak English like that. It's hard for them to get jobs. They probably struggling in there, and then they still losing their kids, bro. If y'all remember, they only came here with three kids. Now they down to 1, bruv. You know Mom Dukes is hurt, feel me? I don't know what happened to Pops, but you know Mom Dukes is hurt, gang. Oh, fucking Lee. This. That's the little brother.
Fast forward to August 2015. A spray of bullets were fired into 463 Girard Street, as a vehicle passed by firing rounds at a group of men standing in front of the building. Security footage was reviewed by Toronto police, and it showed what appears to be Nurusin's arm holding the weapon, and a license plate registered to Nurusin, which police say led to his arrest. At this point in time, Nurusin was no stranger to gun violence and was very much known to Toronto police, which made it much easier for them to identify him as a suspect. Sources say the men targeted were the ones associated with the death of Nissan. However, on August 18th, Nurusin was arrested and charged with various gun crimes targeting Regent Park. His bail hearing was subsequently scheduled for September 16th.
And a heartbroken night. I'm a heartbroken mother. My son is an amazing son. I'm so proud of him. I'm proud of what he's done. I can't believe this has happened to him.
Oh, fucking Lee. Did he go to Africa too? Oh, Lee, bro, it's a killer on the loose. It is a killer on the loose, and he is not going to stop until all his brother's killers are dead. Are dead. You hear me, B? Dead. I like that shit. I like these docs. These shits is interesting as fuck. Yo, gang, feel me? Which one we gonna do for next, gang? I think we're gonna do Capital P next. I don't know who that is, gang. But, oh my god. And then we're gonna do the Savages from the 6K Money and Casper TNG. Holy, these shits is good as fuck, bro. But yo, hit that like button, that subscribe button, feel me? Let's get to 25K on this account. Turn me up, Toronto. Turn me up, Canada. Just keep dropping some new shit in the comments. I'm gonna get to it, gang. I promise y'all. He got the Tales of Texas. Holy, we gonna get into all this shit, gang. Feel me? Just yo, just feel me? Turn up, gang. Just hit the like button, the subscribe button. Feel me? Yeah, I know the vibes. You give life a new meaning when you dreaming. It's your boy Dream, and I'm out of here, gangy.
Fake niggas, we don't do those. Fake niggas, we don't do those. Hard code, weirdos.